Hello dear viewers, welcome to this latest edition of the news in English on Rwanda Television. My name is Serge Nhore. We'll begin with the headlines. President Paul Kagame has chaired a cabinet meeting. Defense attaches accredited to Rwanda have been hosted at the country's Ministry of Defense for a security briefing. And on the international scene, a U.S. judge has ruled that there is probable cause to find the Trump administration in contempt of court after it violated an order against deporting migrants under an obscure wartime law. Now the details. Thank you again for taking the time to join us as we begin. Let me read to you the following resolutions of the cabinet meeting that took place on Thursday. On Thursday, April the 17th, 2025, His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, chaired a cabinet meeting at Village Rugwiro. The cabinet was briefed on the 7th Integrated Household Living Conditions Survey, which measures poverty and other socio-economic indicators. The Cabinet approved the budget framework paper for the period 2025-26, 2027-28. The Cabinet approved Rwanda's green taxonomy, which aligns public and private sector investments with national environmental and climate priorities. The Cabinet approved the following draft laws: a draft law governing road traffic, a draft law on accident compensation. The Cabinet approved the following orders: a presidential order governing services of the Rwanda Defense Force, a presidential order governing the decision-making councils of the Rwanda Defense Force, a presidential order determining military classified assets, and a Prime Minister's order establishing statutes governing employees of the Rwanda Atomic Energy Board. Any other business? The Minister of Public Service and Labor informed Cabinet of the International Labour Day scheduled for the 1st of May 2025. The Minister of Sports informed Cabinet on preparations for the Basketball Africa League Nile Conference Season 5, scheduled in Kigali from May the 17th to the 25th, 2025. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation informed Cabinet about the inaugural International Security Conference on Africa, scheduled in Kigali from May the 19th to the 21st, 2025. And the Minister of Agriculture and Animal Resources informed Cabinet of the 2025 African Conference on Agricultural Technologies, scheduled in Kigali from the 9th of June to the 13th of that month, 2025. The announcement has been signed by Dr. Edouard Ngirente, the Prime Minister of Rwanda. Now, as we noted in the headlines, the defense attaches accredited to Rwanda were hosted at the Ministry of Defense, Rwanda Defense Force headquarters in Kimihurura for a security brief. They were updated on Rwanda's internal and external security situation, as well as on the RDF's engagements abroad. In his welcoming remarks, Brigadier General Patrick Karuretwa, the Director General of International Military Cooperation at the Ministry of Defense, emphasized that the session was an opportunity for defense attaches to share their perspectives and inquiries about various regional and global security dynamics. The event was attended by 25 defense attaches and associates representing various countries and one international organization, namely Angola, China, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Egypt, Ethiopia, France, Germany, Italy, India, Jordan, Malawi, Namibia, the Netherlands, Qatar, the Republic of Korea, Russia, Senegal, Sweden, Turkey, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, Zimbabwe, the European Union, and the International Committee of the Red Cross. The RDF holds regular defense attaché security briefings to provide both resident and non-resident attachés with opportunities to engage, share perspectives, and discuss evolving security dynamics at national, regional, and global levels, aiming to strengthen bilateral and defense cooperation. Staying with security matters, Rwanda has maintained that joint cooperation is essential in neutralizing and disarming the genocidal militia that calls itself the FDLR, which continues to pose serious threats to regional security. Ambassador Robert Kayinamura, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Rwanda to the UN, reiterated this during a UN Security Council meeting on the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework. We have the details with Adams Kwizera.
It has been over 20 years since the UN Security Council adopted more than 20 resolutions calling for disarmament and disbandment of the FDLR. However, these resolutions have not yet been fully implemented. Ambassador Robert Kayinamura, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Rwanda at the UN, told the UN Security Council that the continued presence of the FDLR militia, along with its cooperation with the DRC forces, pose a serious threat to the security of the entire region.
We are witnessing the continued presence of foreign and domestic armed groups mushrooming, which pose a significant threat to the region and to DRC itself. In this connection, Council members, FDLR remains the most security threat in the region. Despite more than 20 Security Council resolutions passed in this Council since 2003. Today, FDLR continues to recruit, train, and commit atrocities, including sexual violence, ethnic cleansing, and mass killings. Now, FDLR has graduated to being integrated into FARDC before your own eyes. This is no longer a secret, but a fact based on the reports of the Secretary General presented in this Council. Therefore, FDLR and FARDC coalition undermines both regional stability and the Peace and Cooperation Framework itself. No country, Rwanda included, should accept the existential threat posed by such groups.
Ambassador Kayinamura also urged the UN Security Council to ensure the full enforcement of its resolutions regarding the disarmament and disbandment of the FDLR.
This Council should ensure the full enforcement of its resolution with no selectivity and hold accountable to all those who support and collaborate with FDLR. Number two, condemn hate speech and ethnic incitement in DRC. The Security Council must take a firm stance against the hate speech and xenophobia in the DRC that fuels violence, divisionism, and persecution of Congolese Tutsis.
Robert Kayinamura emphasized the need for the DRC to take ownership of its own challenges, stressing that externalizing and scapegoating Rwanda for its problems will not bring lasting solutions.
The DRC must confront its internal contradictions. Externalizing or scapegoating Rwanda for its own problems will not solve the problem. Blame games have become their business, but this is just a painkiller. They must own up this issue. I also wish to emphasize one thing, that the continued violation of hardly obtained ceasefire by Wazalendos, a militia allied with FARDC, without any condemnation by the Council, is a total lack of ownership of the processes, and the DRC relegates political responsibility to militias.
Ambassador Kayinamura added that Rwanda looks forward to working with our partners to transform the Great Lakes region into a zone of peace and stability, and to permanently eliminate armed groups and the legacy of genocide. Adams Kwizera, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Adams. Now, event attendees here in Rwanda and those in the hospitality sector have affirmed that the country has continued to make good progress in positioning herself as a hospitality and events hub. William Evans Mutabazi with more.
Beginning tomorrow Friday, over 600 fans of the Arsenal Football Club will gather in Kigali for their annual festival. Convincing them to come here to Rwanda was easy due to the overall positive image Rwanda has regarding hosting international events like this and others. They loved our culture and hospitality, and it is in the same sense that they chose to come back again. Of course, we shall do our best so that they love their stay here. The hotel hosting them says they are ready to give them a great stay-in experience in Rwanda. Beginning Friday this week, we shall be hosting Arsenal fans, and this is also part of the MICE. These will be staying with us at Hilltop Hotel for accommodation and conference halls for their several meetings. In addition to those coming to Rwanda, Makoletis has been in Kigali for 2 days for a conference related to his work. He confirms that Rwanda is a very safe and pleasant place, and he recommends that people should consider coming to Kigali.
I consider you have in your country an excellent working environment for international partnership and international activities. So I think for people from other continents who want to start something in Africa, Rwanda is an excellent place to start. I highly recommend to consider coming to Kigali.
These guests are said to have made a significant contribution to the hotels and restaurants in Rwanda, which encourages investors to further improve the services they provide.
We also managed to host a very big number of delegates who are attending big conferences and events such as Afrea, the Africa CEO Forum, and BAL, and this resulted in a strong business performance where Kigali Serena managed to close the year with revenues about 15 billion, and this also gave us an opportunity to offer excellent services and enhance our guest services.
It is obvious when visitors come for conferences, they also end up using some other hotel facilities and services. These range from restaurants, bar and sports facilities. The policies promoting such activities are directly supporting hotel development and growth. One of the major international events that took place in Rwanda last year was the General Assembly of FIA. His Excellency Mohammed bin Sulayem, President of FIA, remarked that holding such an event for the first time in Africa, in Rwanda, is a victory for the country and for Africa.
I really congratulate the government for hosting many of the important conferences. It was not easy to convince the I would say the members to come here, because some people just read something and then they say, okay, don't go outside Europe, or Africa or Asia is not safe. I can see it even talking about my own country. Yeah. And then I said to the members, I said, you elected me. Do you really think I will take you to a place which is not safe? But then it came also from the government. I'm a big believer that water goes downhill. So you get the blessing and the support. And it took actually a year with the negotiation. We made it right, and we are here. And the people, when they came here, actually they sent the message and
the meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibitions sector, MICE, generated $84.8 million with 115 events hosted and over 52,000 delegates in attendance. Rwanda continues to reinforce its status as a global hub for sustainable tourism and international events. In 2025, RDB aims to attract over $3 billion in new investments and surpass $700 million in tourism revenues.
Thank you, William Taz, for that report. Now over to the Eastern Province, where the spokesperson of the Rwanda Defense Force, Brigadier General Ronald Rwivanga, has delivered a talk to around 700 youth participating in the Kayonza Youth Forum, focusing on the theme, the role of youth in nation building, regional security dynamics, and patriotism. This four-day forum aims to empower young people as agents of social transformation and to encourage their active participation in national development. Participants include members of the National Youth Council, youth volunteers, student leaders, and youth from various faith-based organizations, among others. The governor of the Eastern Province, Prudence Rubinisa, urged the youth to uphold Rwandan cultural values and remain dedicated to contributing to the country's development journey. Also present at the forum were Brigadier General Pascal Muhizi, the commander of the 5th Division of the Rwanda Defense, Nyemazi, and security officials, as well as other local leaders. Now, the 17th of April is World Hemophilia Day, a day dedicated to raising awareness about bleeding disorders, particularly hemophilia, a condition when the blood doesn't clot properly in the body. Doctors who treat this disorder say that early diagnosis is crucial, as it ensures timely medical care and helps prevent serious complications that may include death. And Nola Gladys Venimana with more.
Dr. Gilbert Uwizeyimana, a hematologist at the University Teaching Hospital of Kigali, explains that hemophilia is a disorder where the blood doesn't clot as it should, making it a serious condition for those affected, especially if left untreated. He notes that the condition is caused by a deficiency or dysfunction in some of the proteins responsible for blood clotting.
Hemophilia is a genetically inherited disease that is X-linked disease. That means people are getting it from their parents, especially their mothers, and is more common in male children because they have only one X chromosome. Therefore, when they inherit the affected X chromosome from their mother carriers, they get affected. And then you have reduction of coagulation factors, especially factor 8 and 9. When you have factor 8 deficiency, it is called hemophilia A, and factor 9 deficiency is hemophilia B. Hemophilia A is more common because it's 1 over 10,000 people, and hemophilia B is 1/5 of hemophilia A.
Doctors say that the medication used to treat hemophilia is administered through injections and is extremely expensive. It can cost over 2 million Rwandan francs per patient per week. However, in Rwanda, thanks to partnership with donors, patients who need this medication receive it free of charge for their entire lives. Alice Mujawimana, a mother from Kamonyi district whose 11-year-old son has hemophilia, says that receiving medication at no cost has significantly improved the lives of people with this condition. For example, as someone with a child who has this condition, it really helps us because now my child can attend school without major problems since the medication is readily available. It truly makes a difference that we have access to this treatment and is close by. Dr. Gilbert Uwizeyimana says that there are still undiagnosed individuals living with hemophilia who have not yet received treatment, even though the disorder can be detected as early as birth.
The challenge number one is diagnosis. Because as I said, we know on less than 10% of patients of hemophilia. So we have challenge of diagnosis because parents or people, families with patient hemophilia, they know they have hemophilia. So they don't know symptoms. Symptoms, as I said, is easy. Bleeding, that starts from cord clamping after birth, goes on vaccination, hematoma, intramuscular hematomas when they get injections through vaccination, then bleeding after tooth extraction, circumcision, or even any other trauma that can cause bleeding. They have excessive bleeding.
Currently, there are 115 known hemophilia patients in Rwanda, although there should be around 1,680 based on the global prevalence rate of 1 in every 10,000 people having hemophilia. About 1 in 5 of those with hemophilia A also have type B. Dr. Uwizeyimana highlights one of the main challenges as the need to care for patients already experiencing severe complications from the disease.
Challenge number 2 is the impairment or deformities that they have through joints that are not yet addressed. I mean, those that have been diagnosed late. We have patients who are diagnosed at the age of 25, 23, yet they born with the disease. Therefore, the management of this stiffness or impaired joints is still a problem because orthopedic surgeons have not yet understood that we can do surgery for this kind of patient, yet you can do it with facilities of coagulation factors where you can just repair the joint that they have.
The World Health Organization reports that globally there are over 1.2 million people living with hemophilia. This year's theme is that access for all women and girls bleed too, emphasizing that hemophilia is not exclusive to boys. Girls with the condition also deserve appropriate care and attention. Doctors say that around 70% of children with hemophilia inherit it from their parents, while the rest develop it spontaneously with no family history.
Nyiri muto arababwiraga data bati ntabwo wagira umukamo mwinshi utunze inkimi, ariko nigeze acika intege. Mama akinjira mu bucuruzi hari abamubwiraga bati ntabwo watera imbere udakorera mu iduka rigezweho, ariko ntibyamusubije inyuma, yakoranaga umwete. Njya muri kaminuza hari abanshidikanyagaho bavuga ko nashobora kaminuza naturuka mu muryango wifashije, ariko byarangiye nanditse amateka mashya. Igihe cyo gutera ishema umuryango wanjye kigeze, bamwe bakomeje kumbwira bati ntabwo watera umuryango wawe ibyishimo n'ishema, ariko narabishoboye. Hari abakekaga ko nasigira umurage ukomeye abankomokaho, ariko ubu mfite uruganda rutunganya amata. Banki ya Kigali yabaye umufatanyabikorwa wanjye mu rugendo rwose, inzozi zanjye ziba impamo. Bigereho.
Umvangiye kubarira rimwe kabiri gatatu itugwamo. So, rimwe kabiri gatatu gwamo. One bro.
Kuwa mbere kanda akanyenyeri gatatu kane gatanu akanyenyeri kabiri urwego maze nawe ugwemo.
Ndanezerewe umunezero nsaba umutima, ndakora akazi kanjye ndacatinga data ntizishira enda nawe gwamo.
Wikwisondeka.
Welcome back, and now let's take a look at international news. A U.S. judge has ruled that there is probable cause to find the Trump administration in contempt of court after it violated an order against deporting migrants under an obscure wartime law. We have the details with BBC News.
4 weeks ago, President Trump's anti-immigration drive took a new turn. More than 200 people, many of them alleged to be gang members, were loaded onto flights and deported to a maximum security jail in El Salvador. But with the flights already in the air, a dramatic courtroom hearing was unfolding below. Shortly after they took off from Texas, a senior US judge ordered that they be immediately turned around, citing the fact that those on board had been given no opportunity to challenge their removal. Now, the judge, James Boasberg, has issued a stinging rebuke. The government's actions on that day demonstrate a willful disregard for the court's order, he wrote in his latest ruling, concluding that probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt. Last month, President Trump, already angered by the attempts to stop the flights, called for the judge to be dismissed.
But many people have called for his impeachment, the impeachment of this judge. I don't know who the judge is, but he's radical left. He was Obama appointed.
We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country.
And earlier this week, he welcomed El Salvador's president to the White House, the two men openly celebrating their deportation agreement.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
The judge's ruling, though, cited this tweet from Nayib Bukele. Oopsie, too late, he wrote shortly after the planes took off.
The foreign policy of the United States is conducted.
The retweeting of that post by the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio showed, the judge said, not only willful but gleeful defiance of his order to turn the planes back. A finding of criminal contempt against the US government would be rare. But those deported appear to have disappeared into a legal black hole with little public evidence offered for their gang member status. The judge has given Justice Department officials a week to rectify their actions or, he said, face prosecution.
Now, scientists have found new but tentative evidence that a faraway world orbiting another star may be home to life. We have the details with BBC again.
Could this faraway world be home to life? 18 months ago, scientists detected tiny hints of gas molecules in the atmosphere of planet K2-18b that might have been produced by life. Now, the scientists leading the search told me that the evidence has grown.
It is certainly the strongest sign we have seen yet, right? That can't be denied. So I can realistically say that we could confirm the signal within 1 or 2 years.
If you do, what would this say about the prospect of life on other worlds?
I think if we confirm that there is life on K2-18b, that would basically imply that life should be very common in the galaxy.
K2-18b is 2.5 times the size of Earth, and it's 700 trillion miles away. The James Webb Space Telescope is so powerful it can analyze the chemical composition of the atmosphere from the light that passes through it from the small red star it orbits. Its chemical signature seems to suggest that it contains molecules which on Earth can only be produced by living organisms, and it's such a strong signal that if it is home to life, it's plentiful.
Everything that's being spoken here is confidential.
Professor Madhusuddin and his team put the final touches on the scientific paper outlining their findings. Although the evidence for the molecules is increasing, they still don't have enough to say that they're definitely there.
More data will give us more light from this planet, which will give us more certainty that this particular chemical is there. But even with perfect data, you still won't be able to say this is definitely of a biological origin because, you know, loads of on this planet.
These latest results from K2-18b are tentative, but astronomers believe that they're getting ever closer to answering one of the biggest questions in science. Are we alone in the universe?
Now, before we conclude this edition of the News in English, let us again take a look at the headlines. President Paul Kagame has chaired a cabinet meeting. Defense attaches accredited to Rwanda have been hosted at the country's Ministry of Defense for a security briefing. And on the international scene, a U.S. judge has ruled that there is probable cause to find the Trump administration in contempt of court after it violated an order against deporting migrants under an obscure wartime law. So that is the end of our current edition, but we'll be back again soon, and I hope to see you again. Goodbye.